This is The Inquiry. I'm Gregory Harms. Hello, citizens. Citizens of Baracho. Citizens of Baracho. Have you guys ever seen The Great Race?
Citizens of Baracho!
It's a film that came out in 1965, starring Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, Peter Falk, Natalie Wood. Good fun. Check out The Great Race. You won't be disappointed. It's a lot of fun. Some really funny scenes in that film. My brother and I watched that film repeatedly back in the 80s. Yeah, speaking of the 80s, yeah, he and I also watched Fletch.
You should see my shoes.
I'm afraid there is someone sitting next to you.
Oh, for God, darn.
Which is a great film with Chevy Chase. I think at one point in the late 80s, you could have put my brother and I on a stage with like a chair for a prop, and we could have done the entire screenplay word for word from start to finish. No doubt. We probably watched that movie about 100 times. I kid you not. I'm not even sure that's an exaggeration. I think we might have watched it 100 times. Yeah, every line of dialogue. Fantastic film. Check out Fletch. You won't be disappointed. And check out The Great Race. Two worthwhile films. So, as you can see, I got new glasses. Profile. You can send me an email and tell me how refined and sophisticated I look. You're not going to send me an email. Fine. The merch is on its way. I'm very excited. I'll post up a special bulletin announcing how you can get your hands on that merch. It should be here, I don't know, soon. How soon? Real soon. I'm very excited. You know how I thought of it the other day? Done Music.
QRS. QRS. Oh, I'll never get this. Never. Stuck a feather in his hat and called it. Oh, I'll never get it. I'll never find a rhyme for pony. Never. Oh.
And everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to. Oh, I'll never get it. Oh, I'm sorry, Ludwig. Oh.
You guys remember Done Music? And by you guys, I mean, I guess you'd have to be a Generation X to remember Done Music. He was a character on Sesame Street. I love Done Music. I think one of the reasons I love Done Music is I get him. Like, I understand how he feels. That's kind of how I feel making this podcast. I kind of feel like Done Music. A second thing I like about Done Music is his first name is Don and his last name is Music. I like Don music. Yeah, it's good memories. So today I want to talk about relativism, because it's like a epidemic. It's like not an epidemic, but it's well, yeah, I guess it might be an epidemic or a pandemic. What's relativism? Well, relativism comes in different flavors. You can have probably the most common relativism you'll hear about is moral relativism. And moral relativism is the position that right and wrong are relative, hence the term, to position. So that could be temporal relativism, like your grandfather makes an indelicate remark at the holiday dinner table, and your Aunt Vicky swoops in and says, well, that's just how they talk back then. So your Aunt Vicky is trafficking in temporal relativism. She is suggesting that racist and homophobic comments were okay back in the 50s and the 60s, and now they're not accepted. An absolutist, which I think describes just about everybody, whether they realize it or not. An absolutist would say, no, those terms, though that language was hurtful and offensive back then, and they're still offensive and hurtful now, and it hasn't changed. You know, you'll hear people like, well, slavery was, now slavery's bad, but slavery was accepted back in the 18th century. It was okay back then. Yeah. It was okay to those who owned slaves. But I bet if you asked the slave if he or she was okay with it, probably get a thumbs down. So it depends on who you ask, whether slavery was okay. And yeah, to bigoted blowhards, racist and homophobic language was okay back in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. We have to include the people at the receiving end of this language and of these policies, not just the people trafficking in them. And that's a big difference. Yeah, to the bigot or the blowhard or the racist, that language is fine because it doesn't affect them. But it affects a whole lot of people. And we have to include those people in the calculus. Yeah? So that's temporal relativism. We can have cultural relativism, which is to say that you got cultures A, B, and C, say. And we'll do a future podcast episode on culture. But just at least to keep it simple, let's say you got cultures A, B, and C. And so whatever's going on in culture A is fine, and culture B has no right to judge what's going on in culture A. Right and wrong are relative to cultural position, just like right and wrong can be relative to temporal, or that is time, can be relative to the time period. And then you could have even individual relativism. That is to say that right and wrong for me is different than right and wrong for you. What what I do is okay, but maybe it's not okay for you, or what I do is not okay. You know, you might deem what I'm doing not okay, but you don't have any right to judge what I'm doing. You do you, I do me. You know, so it's relative to the individual. And as soon as we say, well, no one has a right to blah, 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 that invokes a universal standard, and adios relativism. I suspect that, well, as Noam Chomsky puts it, there are no moral relativists. I think he's got a point. There are people who put forth that position, who maintain that, who assert that, but that doesn't mean that they are that thing. They are relativists. I don't know anyone who would be okie dokie being a slave, being owned, being brutalized, being tortured, being mistreated like that. I don't know anyone who would be like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'll be owned and beaten and whipped and whatever else. I don't know if anyone would be on board with that. So we have to always consider who's at the receiving end. And I think Chomsky's right. There are no moral relativists. They don't exist. Even the people who argue for relativism, I don't think that they even. I think they could be caught in their own logical shortcomings, and very quickly rendered hypocrites. It wouldn't take too much much of an effort. So that's moral relativism. You can have all kinds of relativism, and I bump into this in the classroom quite frequently. And now I'm not casually critical of the younger generations, the millennials and Generation Z. If I'm going to criticize any generation, it's going to be my own or the generation up from me, the boomers, the post-World War II generation. Those are the ones I'm going to be critical of. My generation is, if social media is any indicator, they're very impressed with themselves. I see a lot of that. Like, we didn't ride bikes with helmets, and my parents had no idea how far we traveled on our bicycles, and a lot of stuff with bicycles. Yeah, they're very impressed with themselves. They view themselves as rugged and adventurous and resilient, and you know, all these kids these days are just a bunch of wimps. You know, I don't buy into any of that. The political track record of the boomers is quite terrible. The political track record of my generation is quite terrible. And a lot of the problems that we're seeing in the country can be laid at their door. Furthermore, if you don't like how the younger generations turned out, who raised them? We could ask that question, you know. I think it's a good question to ask. So, nevertheless, Generation Z, I mean, the millennials are getting a little older now, but I deal with Generation Z a lot in the classroom, almost exclusively. And I hear relativism in the classroom a lot. Like, give me an example. That's just your opinion. I hear that a lot.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
That's just your opinion. The implication of that is that all opinions are equal in value. They're all the same. They're all equal. And for that matter, everything else is equal. all food is equal, all art is equal, all music is equal, all film is equal, everything's equal. And then we just exchange opinions, all of which are equal in value. And this position is ludicrous. We're not allowed to say that one hamburger is better than another hamburger. All hamburgers are equal? I don't think anybody would agree with that. Go back to Chomsky's point. Would anyone suggest that all hamburgers are equal? Or all French fries are equal? You know, something as simple as that. We wouldn't say that all things are equal. And then we wouldn't say that all music is equal. We wouldn't say that there's no artistic difference, musical difference between, say, the Beatles and your boyfriend that just learned how to play the guitar. Those are the same? Those are not the same. They're not even close to the same. So we have to keep in mind one thing can be better than another thing, including one person's opinion can be better than another person's opinion, or be more informed, or have more weight. So, for example, you go to a very good restaurant, you know, fine dining, that kind of thing. There are no salt and pepper shakers on the table. Now, why is that? Because the philosophy in the kitchen is we know how the food should taste, you don't. There you go. I think their opinion counts. And I think their opinion has a lot of weight. And say the Michelin star chef, I think that person's opinion has greater density, has more weight to it than, say, mine or somebody else's. We could say that we have to be aware of. I encourage students to be aware of just how good or not good their opinions are. I don't know much about interior design, for example. I have a close friend of mine. Let's call her Kate. When I'm picking out a table or a piece of furniture or whatever, I'm going to put a piece of art someplace. I go to her and I get her opinion, because her opinion is a lot better than my opinion. What do you think? Should I get this table or should I get that table? And she's like, well, that table's hideous, and this table doesn't match anything you own. I would go with this table. Okay, well, I listen to her, because she knows, She knows better than I do, so her opinion is worth more. That doesn't. So then students get all frustrated, and they're like, well, does that make the expert right? And I don't think that's the right question. I don't think it's a matter of, is that person right? Or maybe two experts can disagree. This Michelin star chef says this sauce is really good, and this Michelin star chef says that sauce is rubbish. Okay, so who's right? Who's wrong? I think at that point it's just a technical disagreement. I don't know if it's a matter of right or wrong. I think they're just having a technical discussion. But should the two Michelin star chefs come to me for the tiebreaker and say, well, Greg, what do you think about the sauce? I don't cook or eat at that level, so I have eaten at that level, but it's their opinion is way better than mine. It has way greater density than mine. So I think we need to keep that in mind. Also, young people, college students, so on and so forth, will fall into the trap of assuming, and I think many Americans fall into this trap, and that is assuming that if I like it, it's good. Nope. You just like it. But we have to allow for the possibility that what you like might be bad. And that's fine. I'm not saying don't like the thing you like. I'm just saying be grown up enough to admit that the thing you like might not be very good. So, what does that mean? This conversation usually brings up chicken nuggets. College students seem to be enthusiastic about chicken nuggets. And so I bring up chicken nuggets. And I say that you can like chicken nuggets. I'm not saying don't eat chicken nuggets, don't like chicken nuggets. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying chicken nuggets are disgusting. And they're kind of a culinary failure. And then bottom lips start quivering, and it's like I took their childhood away from them, and they get really upset. They don't handle this well when I start insulting chicken nuggets. So I say, okay, let me use a personal example, an example of mine. I like canned asparagus. Jolly Green Giant in the tall, slender can. Canned asparagus. I like it. I've always liked it. I think I like it because my grandmother served it. My grandmother was a good cook, but I seemed to eat a lot of canned asparagus when I was at her house, when I was young. Maybe it's just a childhood thing. I don't know. At any rate, I do like it. It's disgusting. To talk about a culinary failure, they murder the asparagus, and then what you pull out of the can is like the color of my jacket, and it's gross. It's mushy, and it doesn't even taste like asparagus anymore. I know how to cook asparagus correctly. And Jesus, what you pull out of that can is revolting. But I like it. So there, I just did it. The thing I like is disgusting. I also have guilty pleasures. Food guilty pleasures. I got film guilty pleasures. I got music guilty pleasures. But I'm not going to say that because I like that song, it's a good song, I just like it. It's a fun song, but it's a guilty pleasure. I'm not going to compare it to, great music. And I think there's a hesitancy among young people to do this. And I think there's a hesitancy among many Americans. I mean, I haven't done a scientific study of this, but I hear this a lot. Like, if I like it, it's good. And not necessarily. You might just like something that's bad. It's okay to like bad music. It's okay to like bad movies. It's okay to like bad food. Just be aware that there's a difference. There's good food and there's bad food. And maybe you just like bad food. Maybe you just like bad music. It's fine. I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying be aware of the difference in quality. Likewise, you can not like something that's great. That's perfectly possible. A personal example would be the film Citizen Kane. I think I've seen Citizen Kane, I don't know how many times. It's considered by film historians and film critics and actors and directors and just about everybody in the business, it's considered to be like the greatest cinematic masterpiece of all time. I just don't like it. There's nothing there for me. I find it tiresome. I don't like the characters. I mean, some of the cinematography is, Orson Welles did some pretty impressive camera work, but I don't really care. I just don't like it. And like I said, I've seen it quite a few times, but I just find it draining, I'll always go to the artistically maybe not as brilliant film Casablanca. I'll always go to Casablanca. And Roger Ebert, the late film critic, he said, I'll always reach for Casablanca first. He said the exact same thing. He's like, Citizen Kane is, it's a great film, and artistically it's superior, but I'll always watch Casablanca first. And yeah, I'm the same way. I feel the same way that Casablanca is, for me, a far more enjoyable film, even though it's not, it's artistically not what Citizen Kane achieved. I just like it more. I like the characters. I like the story. I like, I guess I like how it's shot, though I don't think there's any shots in Casablanca that, I don't think there's any shots in that film where you would say, wow. There are those shots in Citizen Kane where you're like, Jesus, that's really impressive work, I mean, you don't get that feeling in Casablanca. You just watch Casablanca for the story and the characters. You don't really pay attention to the film, to the camera work so much. Nevertheless, I like Casablanca better. It's fine. You can dislike good things and you can like bad things, but just be aware of the two. And be aware of what it is you don't like and what it is you do like. And maybe what you like is bad. Perfectly fine. But everyone's opinion is equal and everything else is equal. I just don't buy it. Another thing that comes up is when we talk about art, because we do in the introduction to philosophy classes, we do a whole segment on aesthetics, and then we look at a lot of. In my approach to it is to take a art history approach, and we look at a lot of different art. We took a look at the entire sweep of human artistic endeavor. And sure enough, and I don't think it's just young people. I think this is very common among a lot of people. Most I hear it all the time. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Okay, yeah, I hear that a lot, not just in the classroom. I hear that out in the quote unquote real world. It's interesting how everything outside school is the real world. I've always been fascinated by that. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, is it? That's a kind of relativism. If I say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, then I am saying that the person, it relativizes beauty. It relativizes art. It relativizes everything about that, about beauty, about art. It's a relativistic position. It's in the eye of the beholder. It makes the beholder. It flattens the playing field, and it says that all opinions about beauty and art are equal. And they're not. They're simply not. And it makes the beholder some kind of authority, you know. Now, we disagree about what's beautiful, yes. And we disagree about art. And people do, I mean, all the time. They talk about, you know, oh, I like this painting, I don't like this painting, I don't like that painting. I think that person's beautiful, I don't think that person's beautiful. I mean, there are disagreements. But I think there are a lot of things that we would agree on with regard to beauty. And I don't think it's completely relativized to if I like it. This gets back to if I like it, it's good. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That's what it's saying. That, you know, yeah. If I like it, it's good. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So if I think it's beautiful, it's beautiful. And if you don't think it's beautiful, then, well, we disagree, you know. Yeah, I don't... That's a relativist position. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And if I can go wide here, I encourage students to go to the Art Institute if they live, you know, because they live in the Chicagoland area. So I encourage students to go to the Art Institute in Chicago. It's a world-class art collection. It's one of the best, if not the best, in the United States, and it's on a level that you'd find in Europe. You know, it's a fantastic art collection. But I discourage students from what I call point and shoot. So, you know, walking through the Art Institute, you know, you see people, you know, and students, I think, maybe do this. They like it, don't like it, like it, don't like it, like it, don't like it, and that's what I call point and shoot. And I discourage them from doing this. Like, you're not even looking at the art. You're just deciding if you like it or you don't like it. And really, who the hell cares whether you like it or not? And they're young. They're like 20 years old. So how much time have you spent, really, how much time have you spent looking at art and thinking about art and reading about art, and how much time have you spent? And if you just like blast through the museum and just like it, don't like it, like it, don't like it, you're not even looking at the art. And so we look at some Cezanne still lifes and so on, and I'm like, do you see that table? So we analyze the painting, and then they start to see it. I'm like, that table makes no sense. Look how he painted the table. Look at the tablecloth. You know, look at the, you know, and then they finally start to see it, and they start to really look at the painting. But if you just walk through the Art Institute and like, oh, okay, you know, that's boring. It's just a wine bottle and some fruit on a table. You'd never even pay attention to it. I'm not saying you have to like everything you see. I don't. There's a lot of art I don't like. But you have to, especially when you're young, I think, slow it down a bit and look at the art and try to figure out maybe, you know, what the artist is trying to accomplish, what's going on in the painting, you know. Meet it halfway. Introduce yourself, you know. And then a whole world will open up for you. But if you just walk through and just, you know, thumbs up, thumbs down, you know, you're not even looking at the art. And yeah, I think that's a wasted trip to the Art Institute. If that's all you're gonna do, you just, you know, stay home. Because some of us go there and really look at the art, and you're just getting in my way. So stay home, you know. And then another thing, it's kind of a pet peeve, I guess. It doesn't really have much to do with relativism, but I've heard this. I bet I've heard it 1,000 times. I hate modern art. I hate modern art. I hear that all the time. I hate modern art. But I think part of the problem is that that person who's saying that doesn't know what modern art is. And I think, I'm kind of guessing here, but I think the thing they don't like is the like 70s minimalism kind of, you know, Donald Judd, Carl Andre, maybe some of the statuary of George Siegel, Saul LeWitt, Agnes Martin, this kind of stuff. They don't like that stuff. They don't like that minimal. I wouldn't, not that I'm including George Siegel in the minimalists, but that they see that and they're like, okay, what's there? Nothing, you know. And then like Donald Judd. I don't like Donald Judd either, but I don't like, you know, a lot of that 70s minimalist stuff. Ellsworth Kelly, I think maybe I put him on that list. It's not really my cup of tea. I think Donald Judd's boring. I've always kind of scratched my head like, why? Just a series of green blocks. Like what's going on there, you know? So I think that's boring too. But they said I hate modern art, which includes Cezanne. So you hate Cezanne? Have you even looked at Cezanne? Do you even know what modern painting is or what modern art is? I think if you asked, most would not know what that means. Modern art, and I think a lot of what they're talking about could be classified as postmodern art, not modern art. Cezanne's modern art, you know. Modern art starts in the late 19th century, and includes a lot of painters. You know, they don't like, you know, Van Gogh. You know, I mean, so when you say I hate modern art, you need to be a little more specific as to the thing you don't like. If you're talking about Donald Judd, well, I wouldn't throw out all of modern art because you don't like Donald Judd, or you don't like some minimalist piece you saw in the art museum, you know. And some of the abstract painting, you know, de Kooning, Rothko, Pollock, Franz Klein, Motherwell. I mean, I think those are very rich works, and I think that people just see it and they're just like, oh, I could have done that, you know. I guess I'm kind of getting into an art discussion here, but I can't help it. There is this, and you hear this a lot, like, I could have done that, only you didn't. And could you have done that? Could you have painted that Basquiat painting? I don't know. Could you have done that Rothko? Or some of Pollock's better works? I just think they think it's easy. And because they think I could have done that, it's not good. Which sounds more like a self-esteem problem than anything else, you know? I don't think this has anything to do with the art. And I don't know if they've even looked at a de Kooning and really looked at it and looked at Rothko and spent time looking at Rothko paintings. They just see, oh, it's two big panels of color, and so what? You know, there's nothing there. And they move on. They walk to the next thing and decide whether they like it or not. They'll like it or don't like it. You know, they point and shoot. That's a pretty lousy way to go through an art museum. And it's a pretty lousy way to look at art. If you're not even looking at the art, really. You're the judge and the jury. And who made you so high and mighty that you walk through an art museum that is world class and you're the judge and the jury, and you just, okay, like it, don't like it. So, I think I'm a little wide of the relativism thing, but it does come up, and I guess it is. You can connect what I'm talking about right now to the beauties in the eye of the beholder business, and which is a relativistic position, and yeah. If I like it, it's good, and if I don't like it, it's bad. So if I hate modern art, and I, for some reason, have to tell everybody that I hate modern art, because people who say that, they say it a lot, and they seem to, like, they're informing us of their position. Like, they feel the need to, proclaim that. I don't really understand that, and I think that there's a relativism there too. A lot of this goes back to, if I like it, it's good, and if I don't like it, it's bad, and the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. These are relativistic positions. Just because you like it, doesn't mean it's good. So, that's just a little bit about relativism. I guess we need to have a proper art episode. I think the next episode will be on culture. That'll be a good one. Talk about culture, what it is, and at the technical level, what it is. I mean, a lot of people can cite examples of culture, but that doesn't really mean they know what culture is, technically, at the technical level. So we'll talk about that on the next episode of The Inquiry.